Hi, my name is Dan Golden. I'm the owner of the Golden Nevalite Mine, which is located in the high mountains south of Searchlight, Nevada. The reason I am doing Nevalite and have the name Golden Nevalite, it is to help people as it has helped me and my friends and many, many people who I don't even know. And this is the story of Nevalite. I call it the legend of Nevalite. So one day I was at work going by my break table. My employee Joe was sitting there putting this white powder in his water. I looked at him and said, "You look like a Kung Fu episode. What is that stuff?" Alka-Seltzer. He says, "No, it's a White Montmorillonite clay called Nevalite." And he says, "What do you use it for?" He says, "My ulcer." And I go, "Well, you're 26 years old. Why do you have an ulcer?" He says, "Oh, I party too much." And I go, "Yeah, we've noticed on Mondays." And we laughed. And I said, "Well, what else? Where'd you get this from? And what else do you use it for?" And he says, "Well, the list is pretty long. But my father-in-law opened the old mine to heal my wife, his daughter's melanoma skin cancer. And his father had the mine until he was murdered in the 1970s, in 1972. And the mine's been pretty much abandoned since then." I said, "Well, you know what? This sounds like a legend." I said, "I need to call your father-in-law," and his name is Danny, and talk to him about what it is and what this mine is. And he says, "Okay, here's his phone number." So I called him. The next thing you know, I'm out standing in the middle of the desert at the mine. So we were at the mine. It was like walking on sponge cake and this feeling of almost eeriness of a power. The hair on my arm was standing straight up. It's like, very, very mystical feeling. So I asked him, I says, "Well, how is this mine found? I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere right here by Searchlight in Nevada up in the mountains. How does this mountain get found?" He says, "Oh, my father was a gambler in 1945. It was raining in February, and he looked out the saloon window, and here's this prospector walking through town like there's nothing wrong with his knees." So he ran out, Lucky Jim went up to the prospector and says, "I thought you said you were crippled and you could hardly walk." He says, "Now you're walking through town like there's nothing wrong with you." He says, "I know it's a miracle." He says, "I've been out south of town here, and I struck out a claim there because I think there's gold, and all there's this white powder, spongy stuff everywhere. And it was raining and soaking in my knees the last couple of weeks. Now my arthritis don't hurt no more. And I'm here in town to get supplies and go back." He says, "Well, I'm going to go back with you." He says, "Okay." So they went out to the mine, and Lucky Jim says, "You know what? I'd like to buy this mine from you, and I'll pay you like the money you owe me and your grub stakes and the gambling money you owe me in exchange to sign the claim over." So Lucky Jim signed a claim over to him. The miner signed a claim over to Lucky Jim. And Lucky Jim went and got the claim put in his name. Then he went to the local natives and asked them, "Do you know about this?" They go, "Yes, it's silkstone. Where'd you find it?" He says, "I'm not telling you." They said, "Well, then we're not going to tell you what it's used for." He says, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll trade you Nevalite for life supply if you tell me what the mine was used for." They go, "Okay, that's a deal. It was used for everything." He says, "Can you define everything?" They said, "Sure. We have an open wound, we put it on, cover it with a leaf, it heals in 5 days with no scar. We have sunblock, and if we get a sunburn, we put it on as a clay mask, and the sunburn goes away right away. If we have any kind of wounds or aches or pains, we put it on as a clay, and it heals it, usually covering it with a leaf so it doesn't dry too fast. And if we have indigestion, we put it in water. If we suspect the water could be poisonous, we put it in the water, and it makes the water safe to drink. It calms our stomach. It stops diarrhea. It does lots of things." So Lucky Jim marketed the Nevalite and renamed it, instead of silkstone, which is what the natives called it, he called it Nevalite. And he marketed it until 1972 when he had a sudden death. I made a deal to acquire the mine from Lucky Jim's son Danny so that I could see if all these things were true and it could help humanity. It seemed to me that these things were incredible, and I wanted to experiment with myself to see if they were true. I found out because of discovering the book, The Healing Power of Clay, and initially I thought everything in that book was pretty much BS. It turns out it's very accurate. The incredible claims it makes are actually true, and I'm living proof of it. One of the things that I mention to people is that to look at me, of course I'm sitting down, you can't tell, but I've got a severed back. I was using Nevalite 2 years before an explosion accident. I healed in 30 days. I was skiing 4 months later. That plus many other things that I've been using Nevalite for are just incredible. And I've been my own test subject plus many other people, and they're amazed about the list of White Montmorillonite uh, miracles. The best thing to call them is miracles that occur from just mixing it with your water and drinking it or applying it as a poultice. It does amazing things. I've discovered the big secret of Nevalite is it has to touch that which needs to be helped and regenerated or to destroy bacteria, bad bacteria, good bacteria actually likes it, or viruses especially, or degeneration. Nevalite actually regenerates lost tissue, and I am living proof of that in many, many ways. How we mine the Nevalite is a very special way because we really respect its integrity of being extremely pure. We try to maintain that purity at all times by using the most simplistic means of mining, which is mining by hand. I've had people say, why don't you take a backhoe out there and get more out? I says, then it would be contaminated with what's called overburden, which is a nice word for dirt. So I mine it by hand to make sure there's no overburden, to make sure there's no stones or volcanic rock and opals and things like that in it. And we put it in buckets and all by hand, and then take it to a mill where it's milled to get the little fine particles of volcanic ash out of it. But it seems spooky and almost surrealistic being out there. He is this eerie quiet and calm. There are hardly any creatures at all. When you get out of the truck after going through this very treacherous, narrow road to get there, where one side of the truck could fall off a cliff, you're going, oh my goodness, we're finally at the mine. Then you get to the mine, it's serene, calm, the hair's raising your hands. You're walking on like sponge cake. Your feet are sinking into the sponge. And as we walk up the side of the hill with our shovels and our bucket in our hand, knowing that we have something special here. So to mine Nevalite is pretty simple, except getting there is kind of difficult. Go out there with a pickup truck, a generator, a small jackhammer, mine it by hand. And the jackhammers, because it's so at the base of this huge mound of 110,000 tons of Nevalite, we have to jackhammer it out, then it just instantly crumbles. And we place it in buckets. Then we take it down the hill. Then we lay it out to dry in the hot Nevada sun. Then put it back in the buckets, put it in the truck to take it to the mill to have the volcanic rock taken out of it. The reason I created golden Nevalite is my last name is Golden and it's Nevalite, so now it's golden Nevalite. I created it because I've always been in the service industry. I collect antiquities, I restore antiques for people. I have a telephone company, we install commercial phone systems. And being in the service company, I feel good about when I get compliments and kudos for changing people's lives, whether it's making their communications much more efficient or helping them so that they have a healthy lifestyle and have a product that's all natural and is far superior to any of these fad diets. And I've had one person lose 80 pounds in 4 months by doing nothing to change her diet. She was obese, obviously, but she kept the same diet. She walks her dog once a day, and that's about all the exercise she gets. And she lost 80 pounds because of the detoxifying effect of mixing just a very small part of Nevalite with distilled water and drinking it like a teaspoon to a half a gallon and just a couple of glasses a day. And these kind of experiences make me feel really special that I've changed people's lives. It's simple for them to do and have a healthy future. I learned a lot about it about 5 years after I discovered a mine with a telephone call because I republished the information about the mine, but with my new phone number, but I kept the old name Nevalite from the 1940s. So what happened, I get a phone call one day from Florida. It's this lady saying, oh, your phone number's working again. I'm so happy. All the other mines in the book are closed up. I go, what book? She says, The Power of the Healing Clay, that book. I said, I don't know that book. She says, well, your mine's name is in that book from a long time ago, and I used to order it all the time, then all of a sudden the mine was closed. I go, this gal's got to be really old. And I said, okay, what do you use it for? She says, well, like in the book. I said, I don't know the book. What do you use it for? She says, migraine headaches. She says, they're debilitating. They make me want to throw up. They're horrible pain. She says, and the Nevalite's the only thing that really helps. She says, I make it to a poultice with distilled water, just put some on the back of my neck, put some on my forehead. Within 15 minutes, my migraine headaches are gone. And so I says, great, thank you for telling me about the book. I'm going to order it. So I sent her a Nevalite off to Florida, and I ordered the book. I actually ordered like a dozen of them, and they're still being published. And I read the book through and I go, this is all nonsense. It can't do all these things. This is complete BS. Well, it turned out that the more I read the book and the more I applied over the next 5 years, I found out that some of the things that seemed the most incredible are actually true. An all-natural health and beauty product is very important to me because the phone collection in the background is an example of why it's important. I like sharing the history of important things with people. I like sharing really important things like what I believe White Montmorillonite is, aka Nevalite. It is so important that I believe it's a differentiator. It's something that will make a difference in people's lives, and it gives me a sense of pride, kind of like a father with a newborn son. Let me introduce to you my new son or my new daughter, my new child to the world. Nevalite is like my new child. It's not been sold in the way it should be sold because it really is very difficult to go out and mine something by hand and get dirt and other things out of it and make sure it's pure. Most people want a shortcut and use, automated equipment, and I don't. I do it by hand, and I examine every little chunk as it goes into the bucket. So that's why I really am impressed and very, very emotional about Nevalite, because of all the help it's done for me and my family and friends I wish to share with the world. So the bottom line of why I'm so passionate about Nevalite is I fully expect to be 150 years old. I've got confidence I'll do it. I've heard on the news that the first person to live 150 years old is alive today. I'm going to try to be that person by using Nevalite 4 times a day in 4 different ways. I want to share it with you so that you too can live long and prosper, just like our famous friend says. So Nevalite for life, live long and prosper.